Welcome. It's Saturday morning, and we just had our first snowfall in Calgary. Ooh. And I mean, it really dumped out there. It's like, I don't know, 10 to 20 centimeters of snow. Everything looked like big fluffy things, and the trees are not even lost their leaves, and they're all got fluffy snow on it. So I worked on the retro tester programming last night and got it all done. Um, First of all, how to update these things. Da da da. So when you buy these USB ASP programmers, ASP USB, USB ASP, USB ASP, I had to add to two of the boards the extra jumpers right here and here. This one will be needed in one part, and this one will be another part. So when you jumper this side here, you're going to be programming the board. So what you can do is, I'll just unplug this cable. You can actually put two boards back to back like this. Like that. So what you do is you designate one as the programmer and one as the recipient, and then you change the jumper here like so. Like that. I'm not going to actually do one, but I'll show you the web page that I use to do it. It's fairly straightforward. Let's find our website here. Of course, Chrome's not displaying the right thing again. Properties. Where is the Chrome? Chrome. There it is. So if we look here, so this URL you see up there, I wonder if I can make it bigger. Notepad. Notepad. 2, 3. Yeah, okay. So, that URL that I have at the top line right here, if you find it, or just search how do you update USB ASP and find Octo Plus Labs, you'll find it. It has fairly straightforward instructions on doing this. They talk about what you need, where the firmware is, what type. You have to know what type it is. So you're going to have to read the surface of the chip and find out if it's Atmega 8, 88, or what's the other one in here? 28. So you're going to have to figure out, first of all, which one you have, because there's multiple variants of this board. Then you set it up like I did, and you set the destination. He's got a pair of wires just jumpering it right there, but you can just put a jumper on. And then what you do is you just, you have to be in a directory where you have your AVR dude tool, and that is this. So it's going to be somewhere in your tree. Well, this is the Linux version. I don't know about the Windows version, but you're going to have to find it. You need to be in that tree, because the code all references stuff like this. So you end up doing this line here on the top. Averdo, blah, blah. The variable is that Atmega 8, 88, or 28. So you have to put that in there. What this first does is it reads back and verifies and backs up the flash on the thing. Then you changed it over to firmware, and with a W parameter, you write out to the new one. And that's it. That is the sum total of updating one of these programmers. Now, once you have the programmer updated, put the jumper back in its park position. I just have it sitting on one pin. Also, they recommend that when you're programming everything, you have it on 5 volts. In fact, this particular one isn't on 5 volts, it's on 3. It'll still work, but they recommend 5 volts. So what I did is I bootstrapped. I basically used one to program the other two, and then once the other two are programmed, I used one of them to program the original. Now, when programming the retro, you'll need this gizmo, like so. And they recommend in the manual that you remove the screen and you remove the SD card storage unit. And what you end up doing is, with this red wire on this cable, or the one wire, pointed that way, you put this on here, and you would plug this into here, like so. So I've already programmed this, and let me get that little screwdriver out, because I can see on the screen you can hardly see the this. Oh, it also helps, I suppose, William, if you take off the protector. Let's do that. There you go. So I've already programmed it and everything. So I'm not going to do another one. But I will show you the instructions for doing the programming. So let's go back to the notepad. So being in this directory again, where my Arduino AVR tool is, first of all, you want to check the fuses. So you can see here we're reading, getting info, reading, getting info, reading, getting info. We're reading the 3 sets of fuses. And what that does, when the first time I ran this, you can see it right here, right? I got this. The SCK. I couldn't talk to it. So what you have to do then on the programmer, because there's a jumper just for this problem. I'm just going to take this off so the lights aren't there. Right here, this jumper on the top is known as JP3, I think? Yeah, JP3. And this changes the way SCK is dealt with. It's kind of a speed control. Just jumper it. And if you do jumper it and you run it again, then you get this right here. Is now reading correctly the device and dumping the fuses. Currently what the 3 fuses are, L, H, and E. That's 6299 FF. So then we go to the next line. Which is set the fuses. So they want us to set the fuses a little differently. They want F7, D7, and FF. Okay, so we pass those parameters up here. F7, D7, FF, and you see it go off and blah blah blah, and it writes, this is the original fuses, gets all done, blah blah blah. Now the fuses are this. Now don't ask me what the fuses actually do. All I know is there's fuses. You know, to me a fuse is a thing that goes pop and breaks your circuit. I'm not exactly sure what the fuse is doing here. Right? And then I had to figure out where my firmware was, so I just did a double tap on the tab key to fill in for some padding, and this is the final line right here, this guy right here. Okay, so we run this line and it goes off and it starts writing. Okay, it writes a little bit of the first part, which is really this part here is erase everything first, make sure it's clean, and then you can see right here 1910 seconds. So if we go back to a calculator here, 1910 divided by 60, that's 31 minutes right there. And then 1308 divided by 60, 21 minutes. So the whole thing took just under an hour to program the board. And you can see it completed correctly. Everything was done. And those are the 3 lines. Now, all these instructions are actually buried in the manual. Let me find the manual here to read me. So when you go to the manual, and I'm just going to find this page here. No, I'll just move this because it's a readme. Here we go. So they say programming the fuses, right? 1. Now this is, from what I can see up here, this looks like almost like an EXE Windows approach to it. But we don't, of course, have a COM. We actually just have USB ASP where that STK is. Okay? But you modify this. You follow. There's the writing of the fuses. They even supply some batch files, but I just manually did it at the command line. Right? And then you get the programming of the firmware. Right? The XX being the firmware version here. Right? And you can see blah, blah, blah. There's a verification. Now, this did not happen to me. Simply because I used the SCK jumper and everything was working fine. And the new firmware. I think the problem with this controller here is that SCK speed thing. It's trying to write it too fast. Right? And the version of the firmware that was on it. Once you update it and do this, I don't think you'll have any issue with this $10 controller. Now, as I said before, you could probably get away with an Uno doing exactly the same thing. Right? You just have to do a little more work and some jumper wires and stuff to the board. But I'm pretty sure you could use an Uno or Omega to actually flash, treat it as an ISP programmer, and actually flash that one over there on the retro. But that's how you get it done. So now that we have, I'm just going to unplug this. Now we have the retro programmed. Okay. Now, I'm glad I sat down and I built all the extra power connectors on this. This one. Right? Why not? So now I have a choice. So I rooted around on my desk and I found a power from a hub. It doesn't need that much power. And so you can see that it's ready to go. Can I make this a little more? Whoops. A little more. Whoops. There we go. So the idea behind this is so bright, isn't it? What can I put on there to just block the light? There we go. So there's switches down here. So there's a reset. They'll get you back to the primary menu. Like that, boots, doink, right? And then what you do, you use the select button and you find the category you want. So I happen to have a TTL logic chip in here, so I'll take the logic chip. And I'll say OK. Now it's asking me which logic chip. I have a 74395, I believe. 393. So we need that set. So we press OK again. Now within that set, we need in the 90s. Well, we went too far. So you can use these two buttons here are also back and forth. So 399, 398, 396, 395, 390, 4-bit bin counter. So this is what we have in here. So we put our thing in. Observe this, of course. Pin 1 is that way. The little notch in the chip is that way. Don't do it that way. Bad things could happen. So then you say, okay. And you hear the little noise in there? Yeah. I haven't turned the volume up at all. In order to do the volume, this is one thing I wish on this thing, that the volume control under the panel was a right angle volume control, not a straight up volume control. That would have been really nice. I do have some of those right angle ones, but the legs didn't match the PCB board holes, so I was stuck putting the other one in. But there you go. We tested a chip, and if you wish, you can test it again. Ta-da! So, it's all working. Now, I really wanted to test some PLAs and stuff, but I have to learn actually how to do that, because that's a little more sophisticated than testing a simple TTL logic chip. But that just proves that on all my chips here, that which I got from AliExpress, they just work just fine. Now, I could go through every single chip in here, but it's not really worth my time to do that. I'll check a few at random just to make sure that they're working. But there you go. One retro chip tester. Months in the building. All working correctly. So, I didn't muck up on the... one thing I didn't test to see if this green LED is going on when it's actually active. Let's try that again. I'm curious. We will drop this into here. And we'll say OK again. Yep. There we go. Ta-da! So that light works too. Hey, we always have to have blinky green lights, right? Can't believe I put really bright LEDs here. Woo! But there you go. I can power it by a barrel connector, classical USB, or thing. Now, there is a spot on the board right here for another USB connector, and I think that one is the bigger USB. Maybe. It's kind of hard to tell. I think it was a connector I couldn't find. So, but there you go. Now we have a chip tester that can test a whole bunch of chips, along with my ROM programmer. Upstairs, I have the thing that does EPROMs. You have to use... that's a good thing to check, actually, right now. I updated this whole operating system to... KD Neon 2204, and apparently on Monday the official update tool will show up. It'll be released. So programs XGO. Well, I have to fix that. I was afraid of that. Probably a Wine issue. It's a Windows program running under Wine, so. And I can't remember which wine I have in here. Yeah, wine not found. That's not a good thing. So I know in this one the wine updated from that, and I knew I had to put in a version 6 at that last time, but Wine 7's out. Apt update. No, we can't do that from here. Apt cache search wine. So wine. Yeah, so there's wine right there. And if we do a show on that, 603 repack is sitting in here. But I should have available to me version 7. But I think the repo for it is not correctly set up at the moment. Since when you do an update in Ubuntu, all your third-party PPAs are taken offline. So there's a wine list right there. Right? In theory, Jammy is there from that. But I know Wine 7 is available to 2204. You just have to know how to put it in. So I have to figure that out. But this is it. This is the real big one. Was this retro chip tester is complete and done. So I will need to. I'll put my programmers away. A lot of waiting on AliExpress. Do a little cleanup around here, and I think I'll be doing a bunch of soldering today. I've got all those new stuff and other stuff and then more stuff that all need pin headers put on and stuff like that. So, and Amazon's supposed to come today with some stuff for the 3D printer. I saw a comment from someone about that. Yeah, I'm quite aware that the tolerances on the Z-axis adjustments is so frickin' fine. 0.1, 0.01, and 0.001 millimeters. Yeah, the panel on the Creality, when you do Z offsets, it goes and does it in 0.05 increments. So you can go, the lowest adjustment off 0 you can go is 0.05. Then he goes 0.1, then 1.5, then 0.2, right? Or the other direction, minus, right? Depending where the bed has to be higher or lower. The only way I got into the 0.001 offsets, and yes, it does make a difference, is in the Prusa slicer. So once I got the ballpark on the bed at, I think currently it's at minus 0.45, right? I was working on the last bed. I had to go and make it minus 0.46 or something like that, or 0.47. Then I was getting into the ballpark even closer. And then I did, I think, minus 0.473 or 2. And that's how I got the really good small circles. But it still left the four corners being a nuisance. Now, be aware, I do have Plan B1 and Plan B2 in the attic, so to speak, the coming. So Plan B1 is I've invested in a what they call a dial gauge. I saw some printable mounts for them that you can put and you attach to your extruder head, and it'll give you really accurate, and you don't have to depend on the piece of paper or crap. The other one is, it takes 1 to 2 weeks to get here, but I do have a Prusa mainline one coming from the kit, coming from Prusa. The, what they call it, this one, the original Prusa i3 MKS 3 Plus. I'm getting the kit. So this guy right here. And then I added into it an extra part. I added the spare parts kit to it. So now my friend was at work was telling me that they do the bed leveling different in the Prusa. Whereas the Creality has these springs and wheels under the corners, this does not have that system, apparently. It's a different system. So if anything, I will have a second printer to work on. Now they've also done what was it called on the Creality? Direct drive filament. So this one is using also a direct drive. It's not using a what they call a tube, which was apparently very common before. A lot of 3D printer guys seem to have gone to the direct drive version, but it takes time to get here, right? So I didn't order any of the extra sheets or anything because I can get these sheets just off Amazon, right? I have a bunch already here. It apparently has the same magnetic bed as the Creality does now. So, and you can see on the bottom there that it has a little tab that you lift with your fingers and lift the whole thing up. So, but no problem. And you could choose colors on here. So I chose the black one. I think orange is too glaringly orange. I like the black one better. The interesting thing I read on the site is that technically all the parts on here, a lot of the fixtures and all that, that's all, you can just reprint them up if you need to. Well, we'll see. So that's it for this Saturday video. I'll let you go. I'm going to relax and maybe a little later start doing the soldering. So, toodaloo.